Good morning, Mother Oafers. Happy April 1st. April Fool's Day. Be good to each other today, guys. Don't take it too far. Alright, so it's new month, new week, and we're going to have a new attitude. So those of you that have followed over the last couple of weeks, you'll notice that attitude was pretty bad, primarily because I'm not having the success that I would like, and I just had to take the weekend and get my head right again. And so here we are, back on the bike, back on the ride, back on track. Those of you that are new to the channel and aren't sure what the hell I'm talking about, I will fill you in. My name is Dave Bernard. I am a 47-year-old fat man. On January 3rd of this year, in a pre-surgery meeting, my surgeon basically said that I was too fat to have an umbilical hernia operation. It's not exactly what he said, but he had asked me if I'd like to lose a little bit of weight before I had the surgery, and explained that there would be less complications if I chose to do so. Not to mention, he said if my blood sugar level was too high, he wouldn't do the surgery anyways. Well, I didn't need him to tell me if it was too high. I could tell. So I chose to put off the surgery until January of 2020, as long as there's no complications, and I can do that, and start losing weight. So as you'll see, I am riding my bike indoors. I am riding a Raleigh Willard 2 gravel bike attached to a Wahoo Kickr 18, and we are in the game called Zwift. Zwift is not just for bike riding, also. Those of you that want to run or walk can do so by buying a $30 pod and using your smartphone or tablet and getting on. So you will see some runners every so often in here. I'm on a different route today, by the way, guys, that I haven't been on before. I can't remember the name of it. So what you have when you're here on Zwift is you have several different routes that you can ride on, and there's always kind of a route of the week or day, and so you can easily kind of choose the routes that work for you. For me, I try to stay on the flattest routes while I try to lose weight. I am over 300 pounds right now, and I have to get down to 244 pounds before I am at the BMI that the surgeon would like me to be at. Now, there's always a chance that I won't be able to get to that weight, and so I am also keeping an eye on my waist, or measuring my waist, with the idea that if I get down to a 38 to 36 inch waist, that will also be the equivalent of being in a position to have the surgery. Now, if I have any kind of injuries between now and then, if something drastic happens where I just need to have the surgery sooner, then I'm prepared for that also. It just gives me a better chance of success with the surgery if I wait. And that's the only reason I'm waiting. Will also eliminate the need for a biomesh, is also another one of the goals. Not to say that I will need that, but it would be more likely that the surgeon would make that decision while he was operating on me that I would need to have that. So also today, if you've been following on Facebook, there is a good chance that you are not seeing this video because I use a program called Restream.io that any of you guys can use, and that allows you to stream multiple different channels at once. And I decided that I wasn't going to pay for that, at least not for a while, and that I can just share for anybody that wants to watch anything. I can just share it after I'm done. So but we're gonna double check and see if it worked or not. Well, shit. Looks like it's still streaming, so maybe there's a... Looks like we are streaming on Facebook right now. Well, welcome. For those of you that are on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning, Tina. Like I said, I'm just trying to... This month is to get back on track. I feel like the last couple of weeks I just kind of fell off, and my attitude was very shitty, and I let the scale control it, and so probably won't do any weigh-in Wednesdays for a while. Just going to concentrate on doing the right things, the right proper activity, and not worry about what the scale says. And you know, maybe I'll weigh myself again in May. But right now it's just concentrate on the goal and stop doing these. I think last Wednesday I was on for 8 minutes and then said F it. Friday I was on for 30 minutes and had the same thoughts. And that negative energy is poisonous to not just myself, but other people. And so I think I did the right thing by not sharing that Wednesday or Friday, but we're moving on. Moving on. It should be an interesting day. Probably a fairly stressful day. We're changing our systems at work today, and so that's never fun. And this is like a major overhaul where everything is changing at once. Our manager in charge has spent the weekend trying to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. However, we know it's going to be a bit of a challenge for me specifically, because I had to get a brand new computer to handle the new software, and so I've been dealing with that for the last week, getting all of my old programs and everything working. And so thanks, Tina. And so it'll be stressful today, man. I don't know what the heck all these people got this fire going on, but I noticed earlier when I was trying to set up. So I don't have any fire, which stinks. But I did have a bit of a mishap this morning, and luckily I got up early enough to deal with it. But my OBS software was, I don't want to say corrupt, but it was missing one of the paths because I had moved a drive off of my primary hard drive to my backup hard drive. And so I use Microsoft OneDrive for some of my projects, and it was taking up too much space, and so I moved it to a second drive. And when I did that, that caused some of my programs to have to be reinstalled, but fortunately it kept all the settings. I was definitely nervous this morning that I was going to be stuck. Happened to reset up everything, but that wasn't the case, fortunately. But that's part of live streaming. It's not going to always go perfect, especially when you're old as F and you are somewhat winging it because you don't really know how all this works. You know, not only have I only been Zwifting for 3 months, but I've also only been streaming for 3 months, and of course that comes with its own set of challenges that I've had to learn and figure out. And I've been enjoying it, and I've been recommending to everybody that's ever considered it to go ahead and stream themselves when they get involved in this indoor cycling, because it's a distraction. You know, I'm running two 32-inch LG monitors that also have a multi-monitor inside of each one of them, and so I've got screen after screen after screen going on, and I'm monitoring all of this stuff, and that kind of distracts from the fact that I'm actually working out. And so I like that. I mean, that's, for me, that's a good deal. I am noticing, and I kind of suspected that this would happen, but I am noticing that I am feeling a bit lethargic today during the ride here, and that's directly related to the food choices that I've made over the last 5 days or so. There's no question about it. But I do have a small plan as far as some things that I know needed to change. And so hopefully those will make the difference for me. I think it'd be a little bit gross to talk too much about it today. But whew, we'll see. Maybe I'll put it on oaklight.com and blog a little bit about it, but there's definitely some issues that hopefully I'm resolving. Now, those of you that did follow along, even though I had some short streams yet last week, you know that I did have some blood work done. And surprisingly, I've already got the results back. And maybe Wednesday I'll get on here and show you guys those results. But I'll tell you that for the most part, everything looked pretty good. I mean, what I've been able to do over the last year, as far as my blood work's concerned, is pretty good. So I'm happy about that. My blood sugar levels are not normal, they're still elevated, but they're pretty good compared to where I was at, you know, a year ago, which was the worst they've ever been. So, didn't even know they were that bad. But a year ago I came in at 260, I think was my blood sugar level. I mean, very, very high. And I knew it, and I didn't need a blood test to know it. I mean, you wake up in the middle of the night and have to go to the bathroom, you can't sleep or drive for more than, 2 hours before you have to go to the bathroom, it's a pretty clear sign that you've got a blood sugar issue or some kind of issue. And of course, cholesterol and all of that. But so my good cholesterol level is lower than what they'd like to see, but they assure me that the more cardio I do, the better that number is gonna normalize itself just with cardio alone. And I haven't looked directly into the science behind cardio and cholesterol, and I will soon, but we don't have time to be experts in everything, so I'm just taking that for what it's worth. They say do more cardio, my cholesterol will get better. Good enough for me, right? Now, my A1C levels are also not where they'd like to see, or I'd like to see them, or even where they've been in the past, but significantly better. Sometime in the last year, I was at like a 12.2, which is ungodly terrible. Well, man, all these guys are on fire. So yeah, my A1C levels were like at a 12.2, and then I think last August they were like 11 point something else. I don't remember the exact number. And this last Thursday, when I got my blood work done, they were down to 8 point something. Again, I can't remember the exact number. So it went from 12 to 11 down to 8. Ideally, you want to be somewhere around 5 point whatever, but 8's better than 11, and 11's better than 12. So heading in the right direction. Just have to work on making sure that I'm doing as much cardio as possible, and all of these things are just going to continue to get better. And I know that that's part of why my numbers are so much better this time, is that the last few months of cardio, though they haven't produced the results as far as weight loss, they have helped me in other ways. And so that's a bit of a motivation. I got the official numbers yesterday as far as my charts go online, and so that was the first time I had a chance to actually see them. The nurse called me Friday morning, but I didn't write anything down because I thought I could just go right online and see the data, and then it wasn't there. So I was happy that it came in yesterday. And like I said, I'll probably share it in a blog instead of trying to figure out how to show it here. So I don't blog anywhere near as much as I used to, and this channel, this Oaklight channel, is newer. This website's newer, so there's not a lot of information out there, and I don't have a way for people to truly get notified. I don't have any subscriptions or anything like that in there, but if you just check in at oaklight.com every so often, when I feel like it, I will blog stuff. Also, if you're into Zwift at all, and you're on the old Twitch, and by the way, if you have an Amazon Prime account, you already have a Twitch account, and you just don't know it. And so, if you go to oaklight.com, there's a Twitch page, and it's one of the places you can watch me ride here. But what it also is that I have what's called a plugin inserted into that website, that whenever somebody is Zwifting, it shows up. So they have to be live, they actually have to be on. It doesn't show all the Zwifters, but if they happen to be riding, you can actually catch them on the oaklight.com Twitch page and say hello, or watch them, or follow them, or whatever you have. It's a good way to catch up with new Zwifters that maybe you didn't know were out there. And Twitch, I know it's more of a gaming platform, but it's uniquely a good place for people in the Zwift community, I think. I mean, I stream on YouTube, and Facebook. And you know, interaction wise, Twitch is by far the absolute best place to stream. You get more views off of your Facebook page because in most cases you've built that audience, but you lose that audience fairly fast if it's not something that they relate to. You know, if they came to you because of whatever the attraction was in the beginning, and it really wasn't from this type of activity, you know, you'll lose those people pretty fast, which is fine. You know, Oaklight for me was intended originally just to be a website where I wrote funny content about being old, and that language came from this very young person who said I was, you know, they were joking around, but they said that I was old as F, and I laughed about it, and I ended up coming up with Oaklight in a response, in my very passive-aggressive response to them. And so it was intended, like I said, to just talk about things that happen as you get older. And the reason that I thought it was funny was because if I'm old to that person, well, hell, I'm always going to be old. I can get nothing but older. So not a wasted website ever, and it's something that I can continue to share my lifestyle with, or the things that I find funny about getting old. Well, it's turned into more of a health and wellness channel than anything else, which is fine. I mean, you'll find that if you ever develop websites, which I've built probably close to 100 by now. I've had a few that have been very highly ranked globally and in the United States, where I blogged multiple times per day. A couple of them were related to fitness. Others were about marketing. Some were about business. Some were about jobs. You know, it was more professional. One was specifically about hemp, the hemp industry and hemp business. You know, so I've kind of had this eclectic world that I've been a part of, and I've written a lot of articles over, and I've since deleted most of them, and one of my main ones was compromised, hacked would be another way of saying, so I've had to shut that one down, and I can't shut down some of it, unfortunately. The hackers still have it, so we've been fighting that for a few years now. But anyways, so Oaklight was just a place to, now it's turned into more of a way for me to share different things going on in my life on a personal manner. So I've even changed my Instagram account months ago to an Oak_life name, and I share that also on one of my marketing pages, just to keep people up to date on what's going on in my life personally beyond just business. And for some people it's important to see that because they want to make sure that the information they're getting is from somebody real, not just some robot out of a foreign country. So I picked this route because it didn't have a whole lot of elevation in it, which is also why I pick most of my routes. But it does have this one hill that I'm probably going to hit a few times. I've already hit it once before. And 6% at 300 pounds is shitty. It's a lot of resistance. Oh, man. I will tell you, it's very odd today because it feels pretty warm in here. But it's probably one of the coolest days that I've started out here in my riding room, and it's currently 58 degrees Fahrenheit. It's usually, and that's after riding for over 20 minutes. It's usually around 59 before I start, and it creeps up to around 61, 62. And I do have a fan going on over my head right now. So it was cooler this morning than normal, but it feels warmer for some reason. Now, I think because of some of the things I ate yesterday is part of the reason that my body's reacting today a little bit differently. But I woke up feeling pretty good, not bad. But before I got on the ride, I started feeling pressure and almost a headache, you know, starting. And I assumed that I would get over it as I rode, as I started to sweat it out, and I think I am. I don't notice it as much, which is good. I intended this last weekend to make some adjustments to my bike. And what I was going to do is raise the seat and move it forward just a bit. But I didn't do that. But I can tell that I'm losing some inches around my arse. And the reason I know that is because I feel more bend in my knees as I ride. And so I'm not getting as much extension. So I would think that I probably lost an inch at least, and that's significant enough to where I need to probably move the seat up a little bit. And of course, moving it forward just helps better position myself while I ride. But at the end of the day, you know, I could use that as an excuse not to ride because I'm not in the right position, but my goal right now is just to knock out an hour and go from there. That was gross. Had to be done. Sorry, guys. So here's something you should consider when you start riding, especially when you're streaming. You should probably have a snot rag that isn't also your sweat rag. And I did not do that today. So I know that's gross, but better than listening to me snipple the rest of the next 30 minutes or so. It allows me to actually breathe better, which means I should perform a little better. Ugh, gross. So I know we don't have a lot of people on here today, but does anybody have any planned April Fool's Day pranks, or or what have been like the more fun things that you've experienced over the years in the past? If you don't have anything yourself planned, is there anything that's happened at work or at school, or maybe family has done that you can share with us? I don't actually really have anything. I think I've threatened to kick everybody's ass that ever tried to do something to me. So I've never really experienced much. I know there's people that love to mess with each other on this day, but just wondering if you guys have any fun stories that you can share with me while I'm riding. If not, that's cool. No biggie. Oh man. One thing, I know I haven't lost any weight on the scale, and I think that's going to start changing here soon if what I'm working on actually starts to work. But well, hell, we don't really have anybody watching, so I can go ahead and share. It's a little gross, so I apologize in advance. But so what I realized over the last few weeks and I suspect is part of the problem of why I'm, especially after I found out my blood work came back good. So I was actually hoping that I would see some negative results in my blood work, and it would help explain why I wasn't losing weight, that something would just pop out. And of course I do have a doc's appointment next week, and so I plan to, you know, kind of talk to him a little bit about the fact that I'm not losing weight like I would like to, at least with the activity and diet that I've been following. However, over the last few weeks, one of the things that I was experiencing was discomfort in my abdomen. And, you know, it's not something I pay a lot of attention to, but once it kind of crossed my mind that it might be an issue, and now I think it's more confirmed since Friday, is that I've been a bit constipated, and I really didn't realize it. And so I bought some medicine, some over-the-counter medicine to help with that, and we'll see how that works, and see if that's if that was the whatever's causing it, and see if I can overcome it, and see if I start to lose weight. So even though I was eating healthy and I was eating good food, for whatever reason I just wasn't passing it through. And so we'll see. I hate to say this is one big experiment, but in some cases it is. I'm trying to change my body. But to the point that I was trying to make before I started rambling on, I do know I'm getting smaller. I may not be losing weight, but you know, even this shirt, my arms used to barely fit. You know, it used to be, no matter what, it was always tight. And now, you know, everything's loose. So I'm losing, which for a guy that sucks a lot from an ego standpoint, I'm definitely losing inches in my arm. I feel like I'm losing inches in my shoulders and my chest. So I'm not losing inches as much as I'd like in my waist, which is where it matters, but I'm definitely losing inches. I know I'm losing inches in my ass, because I can tell that I'm sitting lower in the seat. And so where I know I'm not losing inches is my thighs and my calves. I feel like, you know, even though I haven't measured myself, I feel like they're possibly even growing a little with this activity, you know, which is possible. So at least a little bit. And I'm one of these people that actually can pack on muscle faster than most people, and so it wouldn't surprise me if I hadn't actually added a little bit of muscle to my legs, just from cycling. So, but yeah, you know, another week. Now this week and next week, I'm definitely not going to be on at the same time if I do, but I'm likely not going to ride Friday and or Monday, because I'll be in Austin, Texas. I do plan to, you know, to do some exercising, as far as like at least walking or hiking, maybe biking if I find a place to rent a bike, but definitely will not be on Zwift, or don't plan to be on Zwift. What's up, man? Welcome to the show. So, but we'll see. I've never been to Austin, so I really don't have a good idea of what there is to do. I'm going down for some training. I'm working on building some courses for online marketing, and so I'm going to train with some experts on some different software that'll help me build those courses so that I can present them in a more professional manner than just cutting a screenshot video. So we've got a meeting Friday night, and then Saturday and Sunday will be the training, and then I fly out again early Monday morning from Austin. So should be exciting. Hopefully I can hit in some of the popular areas and at least get an idea what the town's about. I do have a couple friends that live down there, so hopefully we'll catch up. And it's a really cheap flight from Detroit to Austin if you plan it out properly. And so if it ends up being a town that I enjoy, it's definitely something that's affordable as far as visiting. So if you can go the right days. I think that if you can go, I can't remember the exact days, but like Tuesday to Tuesday or Thursday to Tuesday or something like that, I mean, you can get flights ridiculously cheap, you know. And that's flying Spirit Airlines, and I know that they're not the best airline in the world, but thanks, man. Appreciate it. Anyways, with Spirit Airlines out of Detroit, I've noticed there's a few different places. I have family that lives down near Fort Myers, and so I may end up taking advantage of some of those flights too, but the flights are pretty simple. You've got to pick the right days in order to save money, but definitely a doable thing, like I said, in Austin. So yeah, there's nothing overly dramatic going on here on this channel. This is just me trying to get on here over the next several months to lose enough weight so I can go have a surgery that I need. And hopefully one of the rewards of that is that I will be able to get back in the gym and start lifting again. And for me, something I like doing. Now, I've mentioned many times that I hope that I create this new obsession with riding and that I don't feel like being in the gym is as important. But fact is, I actually enjoy it. So even though I'm a little old to care about that kind of stuff, you know, I'm hoping that I can get back there and refocus. Now, I do plan on going, I wasn't planning on doing this in the beginning, but I do plan on going, starting back in the gym the end of this month. We have a Planet Fitness that's coming to town, and so because of their no lug or whatever the hell it's called mantra, I feel like it's a good place for me to go and not get caught up in this ridiculous weightlifting or lifting heavy weight thing that I've done over the years. And so I feel like maybe I can go there and be safe and not lift too much weight, but we'll see. If I start getting to a point where I feel like I'm overdoing it, I'll just cancel the membership. So, but the reason I chose to do it is because I want to do more than just cycle. And so instead of going out and buying, you know, rowers and other cardio equipment, treadmills and all of that, it's cheaper just to buy the $10 a month membership and take advantage of that. As far as Zwift goes, it's a large investment when you throw in the trainer and the bike and everything else, but the bike is something I already owned. And I have had other trainers in the past And this direct drive trainer is without doubt the right way to go, in my opinion, you know. But we'll see. I mean, hopefully when I get back to the gym, I can just I can control the ego. And so I think Planet Fitness is a good place for that for me, because you're not supposed to come in there with an ego. You know, when I go to a powerlifting gym, of course I got to show everybody that I'm stronger than they are. And when I'm at a CrossFit gym, I seem to do the same thing, even though my intent is to do cardio. You know, when I go to the local rec center, again, I got to remind the young whippersnappers what Big Dave can do. And so I can't do any of that right now. And I know it's silly for me to say it, but I know that's how I am. I know even when I don't consciously think about it, that's what I'm doing. You know, a lot of guys do that. And it's all ego. And so, again, my hopes is that a Planet Fitness will help me control that. And I can get in there and do a little bit of strength training without going too heavy and injuring myself. It's actually how I ended up injuring myself this last time, was that once I got the clear and go ahead to be able to work out again, you know, it didn't take me very long, and there was pretty heavy weight on the bar, and I tore my abdomen, you know, and I was only back at it for a month, 2 months at the most. And what had happened, just to go backwards a little bit, what had happened was in late January 2018, I was at a CrossFit gym, and I just finished part of one of the workouts of the day, or the WOD, and that part of the workout was 50 sit-ups. You know, so we're doing 50 sit-ups, and then whatever the next thing was, I can't remember. And I stood up from those 50 sit-ups and felt a little bit lightheaded, and realized that my left arm had gone completely limp. Not numb, limp. No feeling at all. I couldn't move it. Well, I could move it, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel anything. And of course, just like you're thinking right now, the first thought was that I had possibly had a stroke. Well, come to find out, and it took months later for the insurance to allow me to have the MRI, that I didn't have a stroke. So months later we found out I didn't have a stroke, and then it was realized that I actually may have started that hernia may have already been something that was torn, and then if your intestines are popping through and get pinched or strangulated, that it causes a blood pressure issue. Oh, there we go. Freeze up. So that happens. By the way, when you go live, you get all kinds of fun little things that get to happen for you. But so anyways, what we suspect happened is that my intestines became slightly strangulated and then inflamed, which in turn caused some circulation issues, and that was where we found out, or I found out, that there was some other issues going on. So got blood work done, found out that my sugar levels were extremely high, my cholesterol was no good, and blood pressure was back up. So all of the terrible signs of being a powerlifter, all the terrible signs of having poor health were kicking in. And of course, I'd been powerlifting for a few years before I tried to go back to cardio. And so I weighed quite a bit, had a lot of muscle on me, and didn't realize that there were some other issues going on. And so this has been a hell of a journey for the last year of reassessing goals and trying to realize and admit that I'm old and I need to do things a little bit differently. But it's all part of the journey. This is part of the journey here, being on the ride and using Zwift. Of course, Zwift is a great tool for me because, you know, I live in Michigan and it's cold and it's usually dark, and the only real time that I have is early mornings to do anything. And so getting on my bike, I intend to do this throughout the year. Of course, I don't want to just ride indoors. So I've committed to riding Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings. And I will continue to do that, even though I've had a couple of days where I haven't been on the bike very long and I've kind of thrown a temper tantrum and got off. Last Wednesday was one of them. I only rode for about 8 minutes. The week before that, I'm sorry, last Friday I only rode for 30 minutes. You know, but I've chosen to share this with everybody just so that they can see that it's not all rainbows and butterflies when you're going through on a journey like this. Where back in 2012, if you followed my journey back then, when I lost, I think 67 total pounds and put on a little muscle and, you know, lost a ton of fat, you know, all you ever saw back then was the positives. I didn't share the negatives, partially because I wasn't comfortable with it. But what I realized was that that was hurting a lot of people, because when they watched that journey, you know, for them, they mentally thought, you know, when they were going on their own journey and they weren't having the same success, it was almost like an excuse to give up. Because they would look at me and say, well, man, Dave does nothing but lose weight. Everything's always positive. Everything's always great. They didn't see the negative because I didn't share it. And I wasn't doing it to mislead anyone. But all these years later, I realized that it did discourage a lot of people because they didn't have the same success, or what they thought was success, the perception that I gave out. And so this time around, I'm sharing it all, the bad along with the good. I expect to succeed by January of being down to that weight that the surgeon would like to see me at. However, I don't want to just show you the positive. I want you to see that it's not all, like I said, rainbows and butterflies. It's a lot of hard work, more disappointment than success. But that doesn't mean quit. That doesn't mean give up. That means just keep going. You know, just trust the process and just realize that you'll get there. For me, my biggest battle that I've shared with everybody has been overeating. So it's not necessarily eating the wrong food, it's overeating. And that's something that's a good thing for that's not a bad thing, I guess I should say, for somebody that's powerlifting, because the heavier you are, the more calories you consume, the stronger you can become, especially when you're doing it natural like I was. And so, and yeah, there's a difference. There's people out there that do use steroids, and maybe they don't have to look the way I did or eat the way I did. But you know, it's one of those things where even in business, you'll realize that when you put the wrong goal in front of you, you may get those results, but the consequences are potentially really bad. And for me, you know, nobody cared if I lifted 500 pounds or 600 pounds. It didn't matter. But for me, it stroked my ego, you know, to lift heavy weight. And so, because I felt good doing it, I did other activities to make sure I could do it. So, part of those activities were overeating. And so, even if it was good food, good quality food, it was still too much food. And that's something I continue to struggle with. And I'm mentally trying to get over it. You know, I'm somebody that quit smoking years ago. And I know that was and continues to be a mental thing. why I don't smoke, you know, and why I did smoke and continue to smoke when I was, you know, when I was struggling with it. And so I know that I have the ability to overcome all this. I just have to do it. That's all, you know. And so you're going to see some negative things throughout this journey, those of you that choose to follow me, because that's reality. That is just how it is. That's how life is. It's not all perfect. The plan doesn't always work. You know, you've got to adjust. You've got to reassess. And as long as you have a strong enough goal, a strong enough reason why you're doing something, you'll keep going. You know, you may get discouraged, but it's easy to get back on the horse and keep riding after you've been knocked down, you know, when you have this bigger goal out there. And so, because I have this goal of getting down to 244 pounds by January 2020, and everything behind that goal is going to allow me to get back to something I enjoy that I can't really do right now because of the injury. You know, I have purpose in what I'm doing. Sharing it with you guys has also become part of that purpose. Showing you even the negatives has been part of that purpose. Now, I don't blog or vlog as much as I promised and that I know I should, but all that'll come. So I'll be sharing more information at oaklight.com as much as I can, but I am committed to this training. I am committed to this Monday, Wednesday, Friday training, so you can assure that I'll be there. Now, will I always do a weigh-in Wednesday? Probably not. I'm not in a mentally good enough state to handle that disappointment. And so right now I just got to stick to the activity and not worry about those numbers. Well, I may not weigh myself again until May. You know, I'll know if I'm doing right. You know, I don't need a scale to tell myself if I ate wrong, if I didn't do the right things. I just need to keep fighting the battle, and I think staying off the scale for me right now is a good thing mentally. And I'm a person that used to weigh myself 2 times a day as I was trying to learn what was working and what didn't work for me. But I already know, it's not a matter of what food or what time of day, it's a matter of portion size. And so, like I said, I'm just gonna end up staying off the scale for a minute. And we'll get back on that another day, you know what I mean? I've had a couple people on some of the other channels ask about the avatar. A couple different things to point out. No, I don't look like that. But I think it's funny that I have long hair when I'm technically bald and have a big old fluffy beard and a tan and all that, because what the hell, right? I can't have it in real life, I might as well have it in Avatar world. And then yeah, I'm wearing a US military gear. No, I am not ex-military. Yes, I have lived all over the world, but I did not do that for the government. I do it as an honoring of those soldiers, not as a misrepresentation of who I am. So not a false valor by any means. Not the intention. So for some people I have to clear that up. For most people, they don't really care. I'm a very proud American, and so I do like representing the country. However, sometimes that gets misconstrued as being, you know, that I was, you know, a past soldier. and I wasn't. I chose to go to university. I played college football and had some intention to actually going into the military after I got done, but had a fairly severe knee injury that stopped that dream from ever happening, and I just moved on with my career. Of course, I also didn't work out for 16 years in any committed, serious fashion. So when you look at that before picture back from 2012, over there, that was the result of 16 years of going up the corporate ladder and sitting in meetings and no longer moving for most of the days, which unfortunately in 2014 I started doing again. And so I was powerlifting, I was overeating, and I was sitting for 8 to 10 hours a day. Those are all good, that's a good formula for having shitty blood work, which came to a head last year, about a year, just over a year ago. But I'm doing something about it now. For those of you that have ever considered getting on and streaming while you exercise, I highly recommend it. We are 55 minutes into the ride, and I promise you it feels like about 20 for me. If any of you have watched me for this 55 minutes, it may feel like days. So I appreciate you being there. But for me, time just flies by when you're streaming and exercising at the same time. So I highly, highly, highly recommend it to anybody that's considering it. And if you're not sure how to do it, reach out to me and I'll share with you what I'm up to, or the hardware that I use, software that I use. It's not perfect. As you notice, I freeze up quite a bit. And I've dealt with this problem on and off from the beginning when I started streaming. And whenever there seems to be an update in any of the software, it seems to create more problems. However, you know, and there's things I could probably do, but I figure it's good enough. So with the audience I currently have, no disrespect to them, but it's not very large. And so I've got other things I got to put my time into. And so I think this works just fine. Yeah, it's pretty much the second time that I'm going through this. I did it back in 2012. That transformation was 8 months. So that before picture was taken February 1st. Well, it wasn't quite 8 months, but that before picture was taken February 1st, 2012. That after picture was sometime in early October 2012. Now the difference between back then and now is that I became unemployed trying to think, I think it was in March, April, somewhere at that time in 2012, I think April. And so for a good 6 months, I didn't have anything other than exercise and diet to worry about. And so of course that made life a little bit easier. I didn't sit for, 6, 8, 10 hours a day. So my lifestyle was a lot different back then as opposed to how it is now. And so, and I was using different products back then. And so a lot of people have asked, well, why don't you go back to using those? And I'll tell you that there's a couple of reasons. One, I don't believe that sorry, I'm reading your message. Let's see here. Well, let me finish up that part of the story. So I'm not using the same products I used back then, and two reasons for that. One is those products, sometime in 2013 or 14, many of us that were using them believed that they changed the formula and you could almost tell they just weren't working anymore. Now, why would they change the formula? Well, there were two reasons that us conspiracy theory people thought. One was that it was cheaper to do it, however, whatever the new formula was. You could taste it, something was different. So it was possible that it was just cheaper to produce, or maybe they changed suppliers. But there was also one of the leaders had passed away, and this stuff works so good, some of us think that maybe there was something in there that shouldn't have been. Don't know what that could have been, but again, that doesn't really matter. And then the second reason was I got to know the owners, and when I got to know some of the owners, not all of them, because there's a couple of the guys that are pretty cool, but one of the leaders, just a scumbag, and so I didn't want anything to do with the company because of that also. So I know that all sounds silly, but I'm not using the same product. So yeah, as far as the specs go, I'll run down a couple different ways that you can Zwift. So what I'm using right now is not very expensive. I got a great deal on it, but I do have a gaming computer, and I have a Ryzen 7 processor. I don't have the greatest graphics card. I think it's like an AMD something 580, something like that. But it's a graphics card that can handle this game. I'm running 16 whatever of RAM. So spec-wise, yeah, I'm running this all off of one computer. I have two different LG 32-inch monitors that are multi-screens, which basically means that they have an internal software that allows you to put multiple screens up at once. I'm probably 8 feet away from those screens, and so for me, with my eyesight, 32 inches works really well. However, dual screen 32-inch monitors is almost too wide to be a great setup for when you're doing other work. But they were a hell of a deal, so I mean, I bought them for $179 each. So I don't think you can buy them for that. Even the same model, I don't think you can buy for that right now. So yeah, I'm running one. Now when I first started, I worked off of my laptop, but my laptop got just crushed by, it just couldn't handle it. It couldn't handle the game primarily, which is Zwift, or the streaming activity all at the same time. Even the game by itself was had a lot of latency going on in it. And so, well, we hit our hour, so I'll finish up this part of the story though. So yes, you can use any computer you want. You really don't have to be too crazy on the specs, because one of the options that you have, and it works better with the Apple products, but if you use an iPhone, so if you have your iPhone, so you need an iPhone 5 or newer, and you need an adapter that takes it from your Lightning port or whatever that's called to an HDMI out, and then you need a power source into that, or otherwise it won't work. When you do that, and the iPhone 5 SE is what I actually have in front of me, and that one would probably be the 5 works, but the 5 SE or newer. So the 5 SE actually has the iPhone 6 guts in it, and that just tends to work a little bit better, I think. But the aspect ratio is the same, is why this works better than an iPad. So you can use an iPad, but I suggest just finding an old eBay iPhone 5 unless you already have one, an SE if you have one of those. When you connect that to your laptop and you still run the OBS software to do the streaming, you don't take away the resources of the computer, because it's all happening on the phone. Now you don't want to use your regular phone. You want to just use a dummy phone, like one that you're only using for Zwift, because if you use your regular phone and you're streaming the game from that, any notifications and or messages or anything else will actually pop up while you're streaming, and most people don't want that. Yeah, you can turn those notifications and things off, but now you're turning them off every time you're streaming, and you're turning them back on when you're not streaming. And so usually for 50 bucks or so, this is just a iPhone 5 SE, and I have it in a battery pack just to make sure that I don't run out of juice, which I never have. But you know, so this is actually a battery itself, this case, and then it's got the magnetic little jobber here, and I've got a little magnetic holder that's on the front of my handlebars, and that's where we're, you know, for me, I use that to run the companion app, but I could easily be connected to my computer for that, and it just helps with the resources by doing that. So you don't need to go out and buy a gaming computer. You can actually just use whatever you have, and then your iPhone, connect that, and you should be rocking and rolling. Now, even with the aspect ratio maybe potentially being off, because you'll notice, like, even on this stream that I'm doing right now, that things aren't quite right. There's different softwares that you can use. Again, I'm using OBS, but one of the things that you can do inside of OBS is when you hit whatever resource or source that you're using, you can right click it and you can stretch that out or tell it to fit the screen. And so that's really what I've done, and then I've moved everything up just a little bit so that we can get these, let me find it here, the ticker. So I have that ticker going through with text, and then that's just another trick that you can pull in. You can use different software to work with Zwift, and I can't remember for the life of me what the name of the one is, but you can use other software to overlay on this. But you know, I've just added my own little setup here where I've added different photos and different logos and things like that. So like even up here, I'll move it for you. So even right here, this is my Oaklight logo, and you can move that around. I could move the ticker if I wanted to. So there's some different things that you can do, but really from a resource standpoint, having that iPhone or tablet or Android phone or whatever it is, that's a better way if you don't want to buy new hardware to go ahead and stream. Your other way of doing it is that you can actually, if you have an Apple TV, you can mirror that image up there, so you can actually be running it off your computer and mirror that image to a bigger screen. That's one other way, but now you're still tying up your resources. Another way to do it is to use an Apple, the newer version of Apple TV, and that newer version of Apple TV allows you to have apps. So you can download from the Apple Store the Zwift game right onto the Apple TV, and you don't necessarily need the 4K model, but you know, for a few bucks more you might as well get it, and then you can future-proof yourself a little bit. So by doing that, then you can use a capture card. I happen to use a Cam Link by Elgato, but you can use a capture card, and then you can bring that over to your computer. Now, I think in that case you actually don't want to use the Cam Link. You actually want to use, I think it's called an HD60, but you'd have to look that up for yourself. But if you use that capture card, now you can come out of the Apple TV into the capture card, go back up to your big screen TV, and that's cool. So I live out on 12 acres with a couple thousand acres of state game land, and so I get to see all kinds of nature, and we had 3 giant cranes just flying in outside the window. But anyway, so you can use an Apple TV instead, and you go into that capture card, and okay, so yeah, so rambling on, I'm just, there's multiple ways that you can do it. If you have a gaming laptop, you're probably okay, but I would still suggest, laptops are built a lot different than a desktop, so even though they may have better abilities, I would still at least think about adding adding the iPhone as a way to just eliminate the resource issue, and then buying that capture card. Either way, you're going to want to buy the capture card. That is I guess what I'm saying. It will help in almost every way. You don't have to buy Elgato, but they're kind of the easiest. Well, anyways, guys, we've already ridden our hour. We've been on significantly longer than that, but you'll notice that if I'm not pedaling, then it doesn't tick. But I'm just going to go ahead and finish the ride up with a little bit of a burst. I do appreciate everybody being there. Be good to each other today, because it is April 1st, and I know some of you a-holes are going to mess with people, so be good. Don't do anything too dumb. All right, let's crush this last little bit, and we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Peace, guys. Talk to you soon.